Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're doing exactly what your sleepy brain ordered. Slow, cozy Minecraft and gentle Reddit stories to help you drift off to sleep while the rest of the world is still in party mode. If you're new here, this is your little corner of the internet where nothing jumps out at you, nothing demands your attention, and you can just exhale. This video is part of our ongoing Sleepy Minecraft plus Reddit series, where I wander around a calm little world while we explore stories of quiet revenge, soft justice, and satisfying resolutions. Think of it as a long late-night session you can put on in the background every night, until your brain starts to associate these sounds and stories with that heavy-eyed, I should really sleep now feeling. Same vibe, same pacing, same predictable comfort. In the background tonight, I'm going to be doing some very low-stakes Minecraft tasks. We're talking slow building, maybe adding another room to a cozy apartment-style base, a bit of quiet mining, organizing chests, and some light farming. No bosses, no sudden drops, no surprise creeper explosions right next to your ear, just soft footsteps, gentle pickaxe taps, and that calm in-game music humming along like distant vibrations through the floor. I've got the sound turned way down, the lighting in-game is warm and dim, and there won't be any bright flashes or jump cuts. Everything is going to move in smooth, predictable loops. That kind of low arousal, steady background is actually really good for sleep because your brain doesn't have to stay on high alert waiting for something loud or chaotic to happen. It can just slowly let go. Over the top of that, I'll be reading Reddit stories that are all about that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, but in a way that's super low energy. Even when the stories involve revenge or someone finally standing up to a toxic boss or landlord, I'll be telling them in a soft, measured voice. No shouting, no intense drama, no harsh language, just calm narration that lets your imagination do the heavy lifting while your body sinks deeper into the mattress. So before we really get into it, go ahead and make yourself as comfortable as possible. Maybe dim the lights or turn on a little lamp with that cozy golden glow. You can grab your favorite blanket, fluff your pillows, adjust your headphones, maybe even nudge your screen brightness down so it's more of a nightlight than a spotlight. This is your safe, sleepy space, and you're allowed to fully relax here. Think of this video as a routine you can come back to every night. Same style of Minecraft, same kind of stories, same gentle pacing. Your only job is to lie back, let the sounds and stories settle around you, and let's dive into tonight's first tale. So, we've got our little routine set, the Minecraft world is loaded, and you're tucked in, but there's still this funny little question hanging in the air. Revenge stories, to help you drift off to sleep? It sounds like I'm about to read courtroom transcripts over a lullaby track. I totally get if you're a bit skeptical. Revenge and bedtime don't exactly sound like a cozy couple at first glance. When you hear revenge, you might think shouting matches, dramatic music, and people throwing things in a tiny apartment while the neighbors quietly regret their life choices. That's not what we're doing here. What we're playing with tonight is the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, gently, calmly, and completely. When these stories are told slowly, with clear endings and no loose threads, they stop feeling like conflict and start feeling like balance. It's that sense that the universe, or at least HR and the landlord-tenant board, quietly put things back where they belong. The bully gets caught by their own emails. The petty boss is exposed by their own timesheets. The noisy party neighbor finally gets a taste of their own late-night vibrations and realizes, oh, this is what I've been doing to everyone else. There's something deeply reassuring about that, especially at night when your brain loves to replay every unfair moment you've ever had. While I'm telling these stories, everything around them is designed to stay low and soft. The narration is a little slower, the volume is turned down, and the Minecraft world is deliberately simple, mining in gentle loops, placing blocks one by one, building a cozy cabin, or organizing chests. You might hear in-game rain pattering on the roof, or that soft cave ambience humming underneath, like distant, friendly music. No jump cuts, no sudden bright flashes, just warm-toned shaders and predictable sleepy motion. All of that turns the revenge into background comfort instead of front-row chaos. These aren't extreme, violent showdowns. They're everyday frustrations. Credit-stealing coworkers, overbearing landlords, rude roommates that end with calm, satisfying payoffs. The stories are chosen so that by the time we reach the end, everything important is resolved. No one is left in danger. Nothing is hanging over your head. You're not lying there worrying about what happens next because you already know. It's done. It's over. It's taken care of. For a lot of people, having that kind of narrative to follow is exactly what quiets the mind. Instead of chasing your own racing thoughts, you let my voice and the slow Minecraft sounds give your brain something simple and steady to hold on to. So, grab your favorite blanket. Let's dive into our first story of the night and let those cozy little doses of justice gently guide you towards sleep. So, since you've already grabbed your favorite blanket and settled in, let me tell you what you're drifting into tonight. I know Reddit revenge and bedtime sound like they shouldn't share the same apartment, but I've spent a lot of quiet nights scrolling and sifting, so you only get the calm, cozy side of justice. When I put together a video like this, I don't just grab the first dramatic story that pops up. I go wandering through R Supro revenge and R petty revenge, but I'm very picky. I skip the heavy, heartbreaking stuff and look for those low-stakes wins. The noisy neighbor who finally understands volume control, the rude coworker who gets gently exposed by their own emails, the tiny office party meltdown that ends in peaceful silence. Then I balance those out with gentle IATA posts and wholesome subreddits where the conflict is real, but the outcome feels like a warm hug instead of a punch to the stomach. Tonight's mix is all about that low-intensity, emotionally rewarding space. You'll hear about people dealing with small but familiar irritations, someone blasting music at midnight through paper-thin walls, a manager who keeps forgetting who did the real work, a roommate who never cleans the kitchen. The revenge is never explosive. It's slow, clever, and just satisfying enough to give you that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served without spiking your heart rate. Some of these stories are probably completely true, some are clearly a little embellished, and a few feel almost like modern bedtime fables, where the details are less important than the lesson and the feeling. For what we're doing here, the exact truth doesn't matter as much as the cozy rhythm. A small problem, a thoughtful plan, a gentle payoff that lets your brain go, "Ah, okay, that's settled now," and relax. Each story tonight follows a familiar, predictable arc to help you drift off to sleep. We'll start with a problem, linger on the unfairness just long enough to make the resolution satisfying, then walk slowly through the plan and the execution. While I'm talking, you'll see the Minecraft world move at the same calm pace, mining in straight, tidy tunnels, smoothing out terrain, building a comfortable little cabin, maybe organizing chests while the in-game rain adds soft vibrations in the background. As the night goes on, my voice will get softer and slower, and the stories themselves will get gentler. By the last few, I'll be almost whispering, just guiding you through quiet, wholesome outcomes while the Minecraft ambience takes over. If you're still awake by then, you can just let the steady sounds and the simple looping gameplay carry you the rest of the way into sleep, while the final little bits of revenge play out like distant, cozy echoes. So before we meet our first very patient main character tonight, let's make sure you're actually cozy enough to enjoy it. This is that little pause in the evening where you get to do a quick comfort check instead of just powering through like it's another daytime video. If you can, go ahead and gently shift around for a second. Wiggle your shoulders into the pillow, adjust your blankets, maybe grab your favorite blanket if it's not already wrapped around you. If your feet are cold, tuck them in. If they're too warm, let them peek out into the night air. And if you're one of those people who likes to let videos run while you sleep, this is a good moment to set a sleep timer or queue up a little playlist so you don't have to think about it later. I've got the Minecraft world moving into a really simple loop now. Nothing dramatic, just slow mining and a little bit of farming, some soft in-game vibrations from footsteps and tools, almost like background music. While my character starts clearing out this little tunnel, try something with me. Take a slow breath in through your nose, and then let it out longer than you took it in. No technique, no rules, just an easy exhale, like you're letting the whole day drain out of your chest. You might notice the steady rhythm of the pickaxe, the faint night sounds, maybe some gentle rain if it rolls in. That kind of low arousal, predictable sound actually helps your brain relax, because there's nothing to solve, nothing to chase. It's just there to help you drift off to sleep, while the stories unfold at their own quiet pace. As the Minecraft world settles in for the night, let's ease into our first story. We're starting with something small and very human, the kind of everyday situation that could happen in any apartment building or office, before we ramp up to the more elaborate revenge later. Think of this first one as a story about patience and quiet creativity, the slow, almost invisible turning of karma, while everyone else thinks nothing is happening. Pattern interrupt for your sleepy brain. You don't actually have to follow every detail. If you're already half gone, that's perfect. You can drift in and out, let sentences fade into the background like soft music at the end of a party, and just catch little islands of the plot. The warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served will still land even if you miss a line here and there. So, welcome back to the channel if you've been here before, and if you're new, just know this: we're not rushing. No jump scares, no sudden volume spikes, just slow progress, simple gameplay, and stories that resolve in calm, satisfying ways. With that, let's dive into our first story of the night. So, with the Minecraft world loading up and the sky fading into that cozy, pixelated sunset, let's dive into our first story of the night: the neighbor who forgot other people need sleep. This one is a gentle reminder that sometimes patience and quiet persistence can be a lot more powerful than shouting matches in the hallway. Picture a small, slightly older apartment building, the kind where the walls are just thick enough to feel private during the day, but at night, every little sound turns into these strange, shared vibrations in the air. There's soft music from someone's TV, the distant hum of pipes, and then there's one neighbor who has decided that every single night is a party. Not a fun once-in-a-while party. A Tuesday at 2 a.m. bass through the floor, why is there laughing right above my bed kind of party. Meanwhile, the rest of the building has jobs, early classes, kids who need sleep, or just brains that won't settle unless the night is actually quiet. You might already be thinking of your own version of this person. In the story we're about to drift into, I'm going to slip into the first-person voice, like you're hearing it straight from the original poster. So, grab your favorite blanket, settle into a comfortable spot, and let this one help you drift off to sleep while I mine some slow, satisfying tunnels in the background. When I first moved into this apartment, I was exhausted in that deep, bone-level way. New job, long commute, that kind of tired where your eyes burn, and even calm Minecraft music feels like a lullaby. The place was small but cozy. One bedroom, slightly crooked cabinets, and a window that let in warm, yellow streetlight at night. I remember thinking, this is going to be my quiet little nest. I'm finally going to get some real sleep. The first evening was peaceful. I unpacked boxes, listened to the low hum of the building, and felt myself start to relax. But then, right around midnight, the ceiling started to thump. At first it was just footsteps, then music, then full-on party sounds, clinking bottles, loud conversations, random bursts of shouting laughter that cut straight through the thin walls. I told myself it was a one-time thing, new neighbors celebrating, maybe a birthday, maybe a move-in party. I tried to be reasonable. I put on some soft ambient music, focused on the steady in-game rain sounds, and reminded myself that low, predictable noise can actually make it easier to sleep. I wanted to be the kind of person you can root for, not the hot-headed neighbor banging on doors over every little sound. But night after night, the parties kept coming. I hated confrontation. I just wanted rest. And yet somehow, that's exactly how I ended up planning one of the quietest, most effective revenge schemes this building had ever seen. So there I was, trying to be the reasonable one in the building, and meanwhile my neighbor was treating our floor like their own personal nightclub. The nights all started to blur together. Same cozy apartment, same thin walls, same heavy bass. Different playlists, same vibrations rolling through my mattress like someone had hooked a subwoofer directly to the bed frame. It always started around 11. I'd be brushing my teeth, maybe watching some slow Minecraft building videos to help me drift off to sleep, and then I'd hear it. First, the faint thump-thump of music through the wall. Then the volume would creep up, like they were slowly turning the knob while deciding how inconsiderate they felt that night. Laughter in the hallway, doors slamming as people came and went, the kind of echoing cackle that just hangs in the air of an old apartment building. He mutters something about calling maintenance because the ventilation is humming and the pipes keep rattling at night. I just nod, unlock my door, and go back to my cozy little base, where I'm planting my first wheat and carrot rows in a tidy farm. Outside my headphones, he's pacing the hallway on the phone, complaining that the building's wiring must be messed up because he keeps waking up to this low, constant feeling in the walls. Inside the game, I'm lighting the path to my farm with lanterns, one by one, turning the darkness into a soft, warm glow. The contrast is almost funny in a gentle way. His world is getting more chaotic while mine is getting more organized and peaceful. By week 3, the change is impossible to miss. The late-night music from his apartment is rare now, and when it does start, it fizzles out quickly after he snaps at his guests. I hear a door slam, then muffled arguing about how he can't deal with this tonight because he hasn't slept properly in weeks. Meanwhile, welcome back to the channel. Energy on my side is just me, you, and some calm inventory management. I'm labeling chests, color coding with item frames, making everything so comfortable and predictable that your brain can finally exhale. He leaves a note on the lobby bulletin board asking if anyone else feels strange vibrations at night. No one responds. Maintenance has already been up there twice, checked the pipes, checked the vents, and told him everything's fine. The landlord sends out a boilerplate email about the building being up to code. I don't gloat. I just enjoy the quiet, that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served without a single raised voice. Let's dive into week 4 next, where his parties all but disappear, and my Minecraft world turns into a sleepy little village of lanterns, farms, and peaceful paths. Week 4 turns into week 5, and that's when everything finally snaps. While I'm over here in my cozy little Minecraft world, laying down lanterns and planting potatoes, my neighbor is having the exact opposite of a relaxing time. That mysterious low hum and those random late-night vibrations he complained about, they don't go away. If anything, they seem louder to him now that his own music and party noise have died down. He starts small. Earplugs first. I see him in the hallway one night. Dark circles under his eyes, twisting the little phone plugs between his fingers. He laughs it off, says the building is possessed or something, but his voice has that frayed edge. A couple of nights later, I hear the constant whoosh of white noise through the wall, like a cheap box fan on Max. It runs all night. Meanwhile, on screen, I'm just sorting chests and listening to soft in-game rain, letting the gentle sounds help you drift off to sleep, while his reality gets less and less comfortable. Maintenance comes by again. Third visit in 2 weeks. They tap on pipes, shine flashlights into vents, stand in his apartment in awkward silence, pretending they can hear this phantom disturbance. They don't find anything, of course. The building is up to code. Everything's within normal limits. That phrase becomes his new enemy. The breaking point hits on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm coming home from work, thinking about where to build a little dock in my Minecraft world, and I hear him in the landlord's office. The door is half open. His voice is low but shaking, the kind of tired anger that comes from too many bad nights. He tells the landlord he can't sleep, that the noise is constant, that the vibrations are making him feel sick. He says, very calmly, that if they don't move him to another unit, he'll break his lease and stop paying. And suddenly, after months of my carefully logged complaints being brushed off, the landlord moves like someone lit a fire under his chair. He's pulling up floor plans, talking about options, promising expedited inspections. It's almost funny in a soft, ironic way. When it was my sleep on the line, I got copy-paste emails. When it's the noisy tenant, we're in full crisis mode. By the end of the week, they offer him a transfer to a different building across town. New unit, same rent, he takes it. I watch him roll out his speakers and boxes one quiet afternoon. No music playing, no friends crowding the hallway, just tired footsteps and a mumbled goodbye. That night, the building feels different. The air in the hallway is still. No bass, no shouting, no mysterious complaints vibrating through my ceiling. Just the distant hum of the fridge and the soft click of my keyboard as I glide over a calm Minecraft ocean under a square moon. For the first time in months, I lie down without bracing for impact. I sleep. Fully. No sudden jolts awake, no angry clock checking at 2 a.m. Just darkness and the quiet comfort of knowing the storm has finally passed. It's not a triumphant victory lap, more like that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served by the universe taking a long, slow breath. If you've ever had that first peaceful night after a long stretch of chaos, you know how sweet it is. Welcome back to the channel. Moments like this are why I love these stories so much. They're not always loud fireworks. Sometimes the best revenge is just silence. Grab your favorite blanket because in the next part we'll drift into the aftermath, where the building settles, my routine softens, and the Minecraft world turns into a steady bedtime ritual you can return to whenever you need to feel safe and sleepy. Let's dive into that calm together. So now we're here in that soft, quiet aftermath I promised, where the echoes of all those late-night music sessions have finally faded out, and the building feels like it's exhaling for the first time in months. It's that strange, cozy silence after a long, chaotic season, where you can actually hear your own thoughts again. What really stands out to me in this story is the irony. The landlord didn't jump into action when the exhausted, quiet tenant came to him with dark circles under their eyes, talking about sleepless nights and party vibrations coming straight through the ceiling. He only became truly motivated when the noise finally reached the one person he actually saw as a problem. the noisy neighbor who'd been causing it all along. The second the complainer turned into the one being disturbed, suddenly it was an emergency. I know, that's such a familiar pattern in these stories. People in charge ignore the calm, reasonable voices until someone loud enough or annoying enough starts shouting. The landlord was ready to blame the pipes, the wiring, the mysterious old building issues, anything except the obvious source. But there was never a haunted boiler or a cursed water line. The mysterious building problem was just one very inconsiderate neighbor finally getting a taste of his own vibrations. There's something almost gently funny about that, in a bedtime kind of way. All those nights of pounding music, all those impromptu hallway gatherings, all those footsteps that sounded like a herd of cows above the apartment. And in the end, the first time he couldn't sleep, he ran downstairs demanding answers. He became the victim of the same chaos he'd been exporting to everyone else. What I really love, and what gives that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, is how the protagonist never had to become the villain in their own story. They didn't have to scream or blast louder music or start some all-out revenge war. They stayed themselves, patient, observant, a little bit clever. They used timing, documentation, and a small creative nudge to let the system finally notice what had been there all along. It's technically revenge, sure, but it doesn't feel harsh. It feels like a rebalancing of energy. For once, the sleepless nights weren't only happening in the quiet apartment downstairs. The neighbor finally experienced a fraction of the disturbance he'd poured into the walls, and that tiny shift was enough to wake the landlord up, too. Welcome back to the channel, by the way, if you've drifted in and out while we've been talking. Grab your favorite blanket again, because as the apartment settles into this new, comfortable quiet, our Minecraft base is starting to mirror that same calm. Chests are finally organized, the farm is growing in neat little rows, and the only sounds are soft footsteps on grass and the low hum of in-game night. Pattern interrupt. While we've been talking about noise, I've been slowly replacing every chaotic chest with labeled tidy ones. No more random cobblestone next to raw fish. Just like the building, the world here is shifting from cluttered and loud to peaceful and predictable. The perfect backdrop to help you drift off to sleep. As we move into the next part, we'll keep that energy going. Quieter stories, slower movements, and a world that gets cozier block by block, night after night. So now that our little world is calmer and the chaos chests are under control, let's just pause here for a moment. That first story had that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served without being too loud about it, like soft music playing in the apartment next door, instead of a full-on party at 2 a.m. I know, revenge stories for bedtime sounds counterintuitive, but there's something oddly cozy about hearing someone stand up for themselves in a quiet, methodical way. You get the satisfaction, without the stress. Your brain gets to file it away as, okay, the bad guy got handled, we can relax now, and that makes it a lot easier to drift into sleep. While that settles in, look back at the Minecraft screen for a second. I'm just walking along this path, placing lanterns every few blocks, letting those little pools of light push back the night. The sky is clear, stars scattered everywhere, and you can hear those gentle, in-game footsteps and soft vibrations of the note block music in the distance. Nothing dramatic. Just a slow, predictable rhythm. If you're lying down, this is a good time to do a tiny micro reset. Unclench your jaw, let your tongue fall from the roof of your mouth. Soften the space between your eyebrows. Maybe roll your shoulders a bit, or adjust your pillow, your blanket, your whole setup, so you're just a little more comfortable than you were a minute ago. Go ahead and grab your favorite blanket if you haven't already, and let it get heavy and warm over you. Out here in this world, I'm going to wander over to the lake and do a bit of fishing. You'll see the bobber gently rocking, little ripples on the surface, with that soft plop every time it lands. It's the kind of loop your brain can half watch, half ignore. Low arousal, predictable, the exact kind of thing that quietly tells your nervous system, nothing urgent is happening. It's safe to relax. If your eyes are already getting heavy, that's perfect. You do not have to catch every detail of the next stories. This whole video is built to help you drift off to sleep, even if your attention fades in and out. You can let my voice turn into background noise, like distant conversation at a cozy nighttime cafe, while the Minecraft world just keeps on ticking along. I'll keep the movements slow. No jump scares, no sudden music spikes, just steady building and quiet little tasks. Maybe I'll tend the crops under this blocky moon, listen to the soft crunch of footsteps on farmland, and replant rows in neat lines. Your only job is to breathe a little slower and let gravity do the rest. In a minute, we're going to shift into a different kind of everyday injustice. The next story moves from noisy neighbors and messy spaces into the fluorescent-lit world of a petty coworker and a very controlling manager who's a little too obsessed with power and not nearly obsessed enough with doing their actual job. Let's dive into how that plays out and how, once again, the quiet, patient person in the background ends up with the most satisfying kind of revenge. So, from shaking ceilings and noisy neighbors, we're going to slide quietly into a different kind of chaos, the open plan office. Welcome back to the channel, and if you haven't already, grab your favorite blanket, let the soft Minecraft music and those gentle in-game vibrations hum in the background, and let's dive into a story that might feel uncomfortably familiar if you've ever worked under fluorescent lights. This time, I'm going to tell it in the first person, because honestly, it still lives rent-free in my brain. Picture a pretty standard office, the kind with that low, constant buzz of humming computers, the faint smell of coffee that's been sitting on the warmer just a little too long, and the soft, uneven clack of keyboards as people type at their own sleepy pace. It's late afternoon, the kind of gray, cozy light that makes you want to be home in your apartment instead of staring at spreadsheets. I'm at my desk, doing my thing, trying to stay comfortable and keep my head down. I'm the polite one, the sure I can help with that person, the one who will stay a bit late so someone else can make it to their kid's school music night. Conflict avoidant is a nice way of saying I'd rather eat cold leftovers at my desk than start an argument. I listen to low-volume music in one earbud, the kind of predictable, gentle sounds that help you drift off to sleep if you close your eyes for too long. And then there's him. Every office has one, right? The coworker who always seems to materialize the second a manager walks by, leaning casually on the edge of your cubicle, nodding along as if they personally coded, drafted, or organized every single thing on your screen. When there's real work to be done, he's mysteriously in a meeting, or circling back later, or organizing some fake little office party, so he looks like team spirit in human form. But when praise is handed out, he's front and center, smiling just the right amount, dropping those subtle, "we worked really hard on this" lines, even if the "we" is doing a lot of heavy lifting. At first, I told myself it wasn't worth the drama. I had a job, I was reasonably happy, and I liked sleeping at night more than I liked office revenge fantasies. I know, revenge stories for bedtime sounds counterintuitive, but there really is that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served that makes everything feel calmer. Still, there was one project that changed everything. One idea I'd nurtured quietly, documented carefully, and watched him inch closer to, like a shark who smelled credit in the water. And when he finally tried to snatch it, I was already putting together a plan so quiet, so polite, that nobody would even raise their voice, but everyone would finally see exactly who did the work. The way that played out was satisfying. So, let's slow things down a little and zoom in on how we got there, because this wasn't one big explosion. It was more like slow Minecraft dripstone. One quiet, annoying vibration at a time, until the whole cave felt dangerous. The first time it happened, it was almost easy to shrug off. We were in a small planning meeting, just 4 of us and our team lead, and I suggested a simple change to our process, something like reorganizing our apartment of tasks so deadlines actually lined up with who did the work. My coworker nodded, didn't say much, and 10 minutes later, when the lead circled back, he repeated my idea with slightly shinier words. People nodded at him. They wrote his name next to the action item. I told myself, okay, maybe I wasn't clear, but then it kept happening. In stand-ups, I'd float a solution, and he'd quietly rephrase it when the manager walked in late. In email threads, I'd outline a plan, and he'd reply with a summary that sounded suspiciously familiar, like he just mined my message for ore and smelted it into his ingot. Over time, managers, busy and half-distracted, started to associate the good, tidy ideas with him. My name became the one attached to follow-up questions and bug fixes. It was such a subtle kind of erasure that it almost felt silly to name it. I know, from the outside you want to say, just call it out. But in the moment, it felt risky. The office had that polite, open plan vibe where everyone pretends we're a big, cozy team. I didn't want to be labeled dramatic, or jealous, or like I couldn't play nice at the party. So I sat there in meetings, heart thumping, while people praised him for things I'd said 3 minutes earlier. At night, when the work music finally stopped, it would catch up with me. There was one evening I remember clearly. I was on the couch, low lights, some ambient rain sounds playing like in-game weather, and I just deflated. My partner sat at the other end, legs tucked under a blanket, and asked why I looked so tired. I spoke softly, almost embarrassed. explaining how draining it is to never really be seen, to feel like a ghost building someone else's cozy base, while your own name disappears into the background. They listened. No big speeches, no wild revenge plot, just quiet validation and a reminder that I wasn't imagining it. That little moment of being believed felt like when you finally place a bed in Minecraft and set your spawn point. Not victory, but a safe place to come back to. Still, I knew I couldn't let it go on forever. The turning point was a new project, a higher stakes proposal that would shape our team's roadmap for the next year. Presentations, visibility, maybe even promotions tied to it. As soon as I heard about it, I felt that familiar sinking feeling, like, oh great, here comes another idea he can borrow. Only this time, as I opened a fresh document and started outlining my concept, I could feel a different kind of resolve settling in. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to start a fight. But I also wasn't going to quietly hand over one more thing. Welcome back to the channel, by the way. If you've been listening along and starting to drift, grab your favorite blanket. Let's dive into how this project became the gentle, meticulous setup for that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, all while the Minecraft world keeps ticking softly in the background to help you drift off to sleep. So here's where the story shifts from just quietly suffering at my desk to very calmly setting the chessboard. No yelling, no dramatic movie music, just that slow, cozy kind of planning that feels a bit like lining up chests in Minecraft until everything finally clicks into place. I was sitting at home one night, laptop open, Minecraft music humming softly in the background like white noise, when I remembered a tiny feature in our company's software that most people ignored. Every document, every task, every file had a version history. Not just the obvious last edited by, but a full list of who changed what and when, with internal timestamps that didn't care about anyone's feelings. It was like the game quietly auto-saving every block you place, even when you forget to hit save yourself. That thought settled over me in the nicest way. I didn't need a dramatic confrontation. I just needed a paper trail. So I started working on the big project almost entirely at home, or in those quiet corners of the office no one bothered to visit. Think empty conference rooms, the break area at odd hours, my little apartment at night with the gentle vibrations of the fridge and low music keeping me company. Every time I made progress, I saved a new version under my own account, detailed notes in the comments. Clear, boring descriptions like added client metrics analysis, 10:42 p.m., or rewrote summary section, 6:18 a.m., the kind of timestamps that look too dull to fake. It felt a bit like labeling every chest in Minecraft: stone, wood, secret revenge plan, do not touch. Now my coworker still expected to be fed, so I kept sharing files with them, but only partial, outdated, or decoy versions. If I had version 12 polished and shining, they got version 7, still missing key sections. Sometimes I'd leave in little placeholders, like insert finalized chart here, knowing that if they tried to pass it off as done, that empty space would glow like a redstone torch in the dark. The beauty of that internal history was simple. Anyone could see that the real work lived on my account, evolving steadily over days and late nights, while their access logs would show up later, poking at half-finished copies. No need for speeches. The system would quietly tell the whole story. Welcome back to the channel. If you've ever used version history as your secret best friend at work, grab your favorite blanket, because this is where the revenge shifts from emotional to beautifully procedural, the kind that really does help you drift off to sleep. When the deadline came, I didn't wait for my coworker to swoop in. I uploaded the final, completed version directly to our manager through the official project portal, the one that locked in who submitted what. Then I sat back, cozy and comfortable, knowing my coworker still thought they could waltz in at the last minute with their borrowed, broken copy. The system was already humming along, quietly recording everything for that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served in the next part of the story. So while the system hummed in the background, I started laying out my own little trail. Think of this part like what you're seeing on screen right now. Neat, repetitive, almost hypnotic. The Minecraft character is sliding items into labeled chests, one stack at a time, and I'm doing the same thing with files. Different world, same cozy organization to help you drift off to sleep. I opened a fresh folder and gave it the least dramatic name possible. Not Revenge Master Plan or anything wild. Just the project title, the date, and my initials. Inside every draft got a timestamped name, V1_initial_idea_from_brainstorm, V2_final_before_manager_review. Each version had a little comment at the top, like a diary entry. Added Sarah's suggestion about user flow. Removed outdated chart per Mark's email. My voice, my thought process, quietly baked into the bones of every document. On screen, the Minecraft character is doing the same soothing ritual. Tools in one chest, food in another, rare ores in a third. Signs on each, building blocks, farming, mobs, nothing rushed. Just that slow back-and-forth walk between storage and workbench, the soft in-game music in the background, like gentle vibrations through the apartment walls at night. Before I went any further, I pulled up the company policies again. I know it doesn't sound thrilling, but it was strangely comforting. I checked the rules on documentation, intellectual property, even the bit about saving work on shared drives. I wanted to be absolutely sure I wasn't doing anything that could backfire or look suspicious. No secret recordings, no shady behavior, just the kind of careful record-keeping they told us to do in training and then promptly forgot about. There was a moment, sitting there in the dim light of my monitor, where I felt a little guilty. Was I overreacting? Maybe my coworker was just bad with communication, or didn't realize how often they erased me. That's the story people like that love to tell. But then I remembered every meeting where I watched my ideas walk out of my mouth and into their slide deck, every we that meant them when the praise came around. That warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served flickered quietly in the background, just enough to steady my hands. So I kept going. I added small, factual comments in the project portal. Uploaded by OP after client call on Tuesday. Incorporated action items from manager's email. I replied to my own messages with tiny clarifications, not for drama, but for clarity. Each one another breadcrumb. Meanwhile, in Minecraft, neat rows of crops went down in the tilled soil. Water channels perfectly spaced, torches placed at regular intervals. Every square accounted for, every seed in its place. Here's the pattern interrupt. If someone had looked over my shoulder right then, it would have just looked like boring admin work. No fireworks, no dramatic music, just quiet compliance. And that was the beauty of it. My coworker had no idea that by insisting everything go through the official process, they'd basically handed me the canvas and signed their own name in invisible ink. As presentation day crept closer, the folder tree on my screen looked as orderly as the storage room in our Minecraft base. Drafts, notes, emails, calendar invites, all lined up like labeled chests along the wall. My coworker was still breezing around the office, making little comments about their big presentation, completely unaware that this time the script wouldn't follow their usual pattern. Everything was saved, dated, and quietly waiting. And when the meeting finally arrived, all I had to do was open the right chest and let the contents speak for themselves. So the day finally rolls around, and it's presentation time. The office feels a little like a quiet Minecraft village at night. Lights dimmed, low hum of computers, everyone settling into their seats. You can almost hear the soft in-game music in the background as people shuffle papers, clear their throats, and open laptops. If you're listening in bed right now, grab your favorite blanket and just imagine those calm little Minecraft vibrations as we step into this room. Our manager connects to the big screen. There's that tiny, familiar click as the projector wakes up, the fan whirs, and the company logo glows on the wall like a moon over a cozy, blocky apartment. A few coworkers murmur about weekend plans. Someone jokes about needing more coffee, but it's all muted, low energy, like the volume's been turned down to help you drift off to sleep. Then, right on cue, my coworker makes their move. Before the manager can even finish the intro, they lean forward with this practiced, breezy confidence. Yeah, so I can walk everyone through the project, they say, like they're offering a favor. They start hinting that they pulled late nights, that they coordinated everything, that this whole thing is basically their baby. I just sit there, breathing slow, hands folded, the way you might idle in Minecraft while your farm grows on its own. I don't interrupt. I've done that before. It never helped. This time, I just let them talk, stacking their little claims like unstable sand blocks. They're gesturing at the first slide when the manager tilts their head, almost curious. Actually, my manager says gently, before we dive into the deck, I want to pull up something. Click. The shared screen changes. Instead of the slides, we're looking at the internal project hub. It's not dramatic, no big speech, just a calm scroll to the version history. Comments. Timestamps. My name over and over, like neat rows of torches lighting a path through a dark cave. There's this tiny shift in the room. Chairs stop creaking. Pens stop tapping. It's like when the Minecraft rain fades and you suddenly realize how quiet everything is. The manager zooms in on a comment thread where I outlined the plan, another where I fixed a major issue at midnight, a long list of uploads all under my account. Then, finally, a couple of small notes with my coworker's name, typo fixes, a single slide tweak. No one gasps. No one calls them out. The revenge here isn't loud, it's just undeniable. My coworker's face doesn't go bright red, but their smile tightens at the edges. You can almost feel their confidence deflate, pixel by pixel. My manager keeps their tone soft, almost sleepy. So, it looks like OP handled the bulk of the build and implementation, they say, nodding toward me. Why don't we have them walk us through the key pieces? My coworker opens their mouth like they're going to argue, then seems to think better of it. The room is too still. The evidence is too clear. All that patient documentation, lined up like labeled chests, is doing the talking for me. I feel this warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served settle over me, the same way a cozy Minecraft cabin feels when you finally shut the door on a long night outside. But the best part of this little realignment of credit, that doesn't actually happen till after the meeting, when my manager pulls me aside and says something I really wasn't expecting. They pull me into a smaller meeting room, away from the buzz of keyboards and the low office music, and suddenly it's quiet in that slightly echoey way that makes your own heartbeat sound louder. It almost feels like when you duck into a little Minecraft cave to get away from the night for a second and just listen to the soft drip of water and the distant vibrations of mobs you know can't reach you. My manager sits down, looks at me in a way they honestly never have before and says, "Can you walk me through your process on this? From the start, how you made those decisions. No accusation, no rush. Just curiosity, respect." So I take a breath, like I'm about to bridge over lava, and I start from the beginning. I talk about how I mapped out the requirements, how I set up the timeline, why I chose certain tools, how I built in buffers when the client kept moving the goalposts. As I'm explaining, they're nodding, asking little follow-up questions, the kind that show they're actually listening. Why did you prioritize that feature first? How did you keep the client calm during that delay? It feels almost cozy, in this weird office way, like we've finally lit a torch in a part of the apartment that's been dark for months. For the first time, I'm not shrinking myself down. I'm just calmly laying out the path I've been walking this whole time. About halfway through, my coworker tries to slide back into the conversation, like they always do. They say something about how it was a team effort and how we all collaborated so closely, and you can almost hear the script they've used at every party, every status meeting, every time they've accepted praise that wasn't really theirs, but this time it just doesn't land. The room stays still. My manager glances at them, then back at me, and says, "I understand the collaboration part. Right now, I'm asking specifically about OP's decisions." That's the moment the air shifts. My coworker gets quieter, their excuses getting smaller and more awkward, like a Minecraft build that looked impressive from far away but falls apart when you walk right up to it. They mumble something about miscommunication and assuming everyone was on the same page, but the old shine is gone. Nobody's buying the vague sparkle anymore. When I finish walking through everything, my manager leans back and lets out a slow breath. "I'm going to be honest," they say. "I missed a lot of this. I should have noticed sooner who was actually doing the heavy lifting. That's on me." They actually apologize right there in that very normal fluorescent lit room. Not dramatic, just clear. They spell it out. Going forward, all major updates need to include the full team, names attached to specific work. No more single-person summaries that magically erase everyone else. They tell me they're updating the project documentation to reflect my ownership. They ask me to present directly to the client next time. They say my performance review will reflect what we just walked through. It's like someone finally put my name tag back on after months of it being peeled off and stuck on someone else's shirt. My coworker isn't fired on the spot. This isn't that kind of revenge story. But over the next few weeks, their reputation starts to wobble. People loop me into emails they would have sent only to them before. "Hey, OP, can you confirm this? OP, what do you think of this timeline?" In meetings, when my coworker makes big sweeping claims, you can see managers ask, "And who's actually handling that?" The room's attention doesn't snap to them quite as automatically anymore. It's subtle, like when you finally fix a crooked painting in your cozy hallway. Most people can't explain what changed, but they feel it. My coworker starts to sound more careful, less grand. They stop volunteering to take the lead on every shiny new thing. They're not out of the picture, but they're no longer the main character in a story they didn't write. For me, the overwhelming feeling isn't the urge to gloat. It's relief. This deep, quiet relief that settles in my chest like finally crawling into a soft bed after a long, chaotic night. I walk back to my desk feeling lighter, like I just emptied a full inventory of cobblestone I've been hauling around for no reason. I'm not suddenly loud or cocky. I just sit a little straighter. People start stopping by my desk to ask how I approached certain parts of the project. One teammate says, "I honestly didn't realize how much you were doing behind the scenes." Another loops me in on a new initiative from the start, not as an afterthought. And each time it's like placing another lantern along a path that used to be pitch black. I'm still the same person, doing the same work, but now the light is actually reaching it. At night, when I replay the day in my head, it doesn't have that old sting anymore. Instead, it has that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, gentle and steady, like the soft hum of Minecraft music when you're organizing chests and getting ready to log off. It's not explosive revenge. It's quiet, patient balance. The system for once tilted back toward fairness. And as cozy as that feels, this story isn't quite done yet. Because once the dust settles and everyone adjusts to the new reality, my manager comes back with an offer that takes this from credit restored to something even more life-changing. So here's the part of the story that I really love, and it's not dramatic at all. It's the fact that our protagonist never had to raise their voice, flip a desk, or storm out of the office to get justice. They just kept doing their job, quietly, and used the tools that were already there. That's such a comforting kind of revenge, especially late at night when you're trying to let your brain wind down. They didn't start a shouting match. They didn't send a flaming email at 2 a.m. They opened the project tracker, updated their tickets, kept tidy emails, and let the timestamps and version history speak for them. It's almost like they turned the office software into a calm little witness stand. And the best part is, that kind of quiet documentation doesn't just protect you once. It keeps working in the background, like soft Minecraft music looping while you mine. For anyone who hates conflict, this is such a gentle blueprint. You're allowed to set boundaries without becoming the loudest person in the room. You can say, "Sure, I'll do that task," and then make sure your name is on the file, the commit, the client feedback. Tiny, boring steps. But those tiny steps add up, and suddenly the story of who actually does the work is crystal clear. It's like labeling every chest in your Minecraft base. At first it feels fussy, and then one night you realize you can find everything without even thinking. And the coworker? They don't get some explosive movie-style downfall. No firing scene, no dramatic exit. Instead, their unearned trust just starts to crumble, one small crack at a time. A client asks for the protagonist by name. A manager notices the pattern in the logs. A promotion bypasses the credit stealer because their numbers don't quite match their bragging. It's slow, almost boring on the surface, but that slow erosion can be way more permanent. Pattern interrupt for your sleepy brain. Imagine if every tiny, unfair thing that ever happened to you had a quiet little progress bar, just filling up in the background until it tipped back toward balance. You don't always see it, but it's moving. Knowing that justice can work like that, calm, methodical, no yelling required, can make it a little easier to let go of old office arguments while you're lying in bed, listening to the soft vibrations of the game and trying to drift off. Back in our cozy Minecraft world, I'm finishing up a tiny office of our own. I've carved out a corner room in this little apartment build, with smooth stone floors and warm oak bookshelves lining the walls. Item frames label each chest like neat project folders. A lectern with a written book sits in the corner, our in-game documentation quietly keeping track of everything. I place a lantern on the desk, and the room glows in that gentle amber light. It's a comfortable, low-drama space, the kind of place where work gets done and credit lands where it belongs. And as I step back to admire it, my manager's life-changing offer from the story is about to echo in this blocky office in a very satisfying way. And as that life-changing offer quietly echoes in our little blocky office, I'm going to step away from the paperwork vibe for a minute and let the Minecraft world slow everything down. Welcome back to the channel, and if you've been here since the start of the night, you're probably feeling those cozy, low-energy vibrations starting to settle in. Instead of jumping straight into the next wave of revenge, let's just drift for a bit. I'm going to slip out of the office, down the stairs, and out into the soft Minecraft dusk. Out here the village is lantern lit and calm. The sky is turning that deep indigo, and the music is barely there, just a gentle hum in the background. I'm walking slowly along the path, past little apartments of villagers with their doors quietly clicking shut for the night. No drama, no shouting, just the soft thump of footsteps and the faint clink of armor as we stroll. You can let your eyes follow the rhythm of the lanterns as they pass by, or, if your screen is a little bright, you can close your eyes and just listen. I'm going to take us down to the dock and hop into a boat. The ocean is perfectly calm tonight. Each oar stroke is slow and steady, sending out those repeating ripples that overlap and fade into the dark water. If you're still awake, you can let your gaze rest on that simple looping motion. If you're already half asleep, that's completely fine too. These stories are here to help you drift off to sleep, not to demand your full attention. As we glide across the water, notice any tension you might still be holding. Maybe your hands are clenched a bit, or your shoulders are creeping toward your ears. With the next few strokes of the oars, try loosening your fingers. Let your hands soften. I'll line the boat up with the shore, and as I gently bump into the dock, you can let your shoulders drop. We'll wander back into the village now, moving past the fields. The crops are swaying in that slow, repetitive way, like a tiny, blocky wheat party that never gets too loud. I'll break a few blocks, replant them, and you can match your breathing to that pattern. In as the crops sway toward you, out as they sway away. The sound is soft and predictable, the kind of thing your brain can latch onto instead of replaying awkward conversations from 5 years ago. Inside one of the houses, I'm going to start placing a few beds and carpets, turning it into a proper sleepy little inn. With each bed I place, see if you can release a different spot of tension. One for your neck, one for your jaw, one for that little line between your eyebrows that shows up after a long day. This is your cue to get more comfortable. Maybe grab your favorite blanket, adjust your pillow, and let the night do its thing. The next story we dive into is going to be smaller in scale, more on the petty, lighthearted side. Think less life-ruining and more gentle but deserved correction, to give you that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served without waking you back up. So if you drift in and out, that's okay. I'll keep walking, the village will keep glowing, and the stories will just keep you quiet company in the background while sleep sneaks up on you. Let's dive into that softer, sillier revenge next. So while our last story was all about big, carefully documented justice, this one is going to be a little smaller, a little sillier, and a lot more cozy. Think of it like the Minecraft equivalent of planting flowers after building a giant redstone machine. Same world, same quiet night, just softer vibrations in the background to help you drift off to sleep. Welcome back to the channel, by the way. As I'm slowly wandering past this little Minecraft village, lanterns glowing and the in-game music barely humming along, let's dive into a different kind of revenge. This one doesn't involve HR meetings or legal citations. It's just me, a communal office fridge, and someone who could not keep their hands off my lunch. From here on out, I'll tell it in the first person, because that's how I posted it. I'm one of those people who really loves a good home-cooked meal. Nothing fancy, just comfortable, familiar food that tastes like my apartment on a quiet Sunday night, when the only sounds are a bit of low music and maybe the soft clink of dishes. Every evening I'd pack my lunch with care. Leftovers from a slow-simmered stew, a little container of rice, maybe some roasted veggies. It became a tiny ritual that made the long workday feel more manageable. All morning at the office, while emails piled up and meetings dragged on, I'd have this small, steady thing to look forward to. Knowing that my labeled container was waiting in the fridge gave me a weird amount of peace. It was like having a cozy save point in the middle of a chaotic day. And then, one week, I opened the fridge at noon, and my lunch was just gone. My name was still written clearly on the shelf, but the actual container had vanished. In its place, nothing. Just an empty patch of cold metal where my comfort was supposed to be. I tried to convince myself I'd forgotten it at home, but the next day it happened again. This time there were a few stray crumbs on the shelf where my neatly packed meal had been. Third day, same thing. My labeled food disappeared, and I was left with an empty stomach and a very uncozy sense of being disrespected. Now, I'm not a fan of big confrontations. I didn't want to start a fridge war or send an all-staff email about basic decency. I just wanted whoever was stealing my carefully prepared lunches to stop. Ideally, with a little harmless embarrassment attached, the kind that makes you rethink your choices without ruining your night. So, instead of yelling, I decided to get creative. A tiny bit petty. Very controlled, no danger, no pain, nothing that would actually hurt anyone. Just a very specific tweak to my usual recipe. A tweak designed to make stealing my lunch way more inconvenient than it was ever worth. And the best part is, it only took one special batch for the office lunch thief to learn their lesson. So once that little idea popped into my head, it didn't come out of nowhere. It was built on weeks of this quiet, annoying pattern. Every day around noon, I'd walk over to the break room, open the fridge, and feel that tiny spark of hope. Maybe today my leftovers would still be there. Maybe today the universe would be kind. Most days it wasn't. I'd pull open the fridge door, feel the cool air hit my face, scan the shelves, and then get that small, sinking drop in my stomach when the container with my name on it was just gone. No note, no apology. Just an empty space where my dinner turned lunch was supposed to be. It wasn't dramatic, but it was steady, like annoying little vibrations through my whole week. It started with my favorite pasta, then the stir-fry I'd made in a big batch to save money, then the leftover takeout from a cozy Friday night at home. Each time I'd label it clearly, tuck it into the same corner, and each time someone treated my effort like a free buffet. If you've ever had your food go missing, you know it's not just about the calories. It's about feeling like your time and budget don't matter. Because I'm conflict avoidant and trying to stay comfortable at work, I went the polite route first. I wrote a nice little note and taped it to the fridge. Please respect labeled items. People rely on their lunches. Thanks. No threats. No all caps. Just a gentle reminder. The next day, my lunch disappeared again. The note stayed. By the end of the week, someone had doodled a smiley face on it. A few days later, another coworker jokingly wrote, "The fridge is a lawless land," with a little party hat drawn on the corner. Everyone laughed when they saw it. I laughed too, but it was that quiet, tight laugh you do when you're trying not to be the boring one who ruins the vibe. One particularly bad day, I opened the fridge, found the usual empty spot, and realized I didn't even have instant noodles stashed in my desk. I ended up buying expensive takeout from the cafe downstairs. The food was fine, but watching that charge hit my bank account stung. I sat at my desk, chewing in silence, thinking about how I'd planned my groceries so carefully that week. Someone else got my home-cooked meal, and I got to pay extra for the privilege of being stolen from. I'll be honest, I did think about going full detective mode. I pictured a tiny camera tucked up in the cabinet, or calling a big, awkward meeting where I'd say, "Whoever is taking lunches, please stop." But just imagining the tension in the air made my shoulders creep up toward my ears. I like my job. I like my coworkers. I didn't want to turn the office into a courtroom over Tupperware. And remember, this is bedtime content. We're not going for rage. We're going for that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. So instead of escalating into drama, I decided to lean into something more creative, more Minecrafty in spirit. Slow, methodical, and oddly satisfying. You know how in a cozy Minecraft world you don't rush straight to the end. You mine a little, you build a little cabin, you organize your chests, you lay the groundwork. That's what this felt like. Every missing lunch was another block place, another quiet reason to try something different. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't even want to embarrass them. I just wanted the stealing to be more trouble than it was worth. So, standing there in front of that humming office fridge one afternoon, I made a decision. If someone insisted on treating my food like a free-for-all, then maybe it was time to give them something that looked delicious, smelled amazing, and was still completely safe, but came with a very specific, very inconvenient side effect. We're not at the full revenge yet. This is just the moment where the plan starts to form, like laying the first row of blocks on a new build. I went home that night, turned on some soft music, let my apartment feel extra cozy, and started prepping one very special batch of leftovers that would, very gently, teach the lunch thief to think twice. And in the next part of the story, I'll tell you exactly what I cooked, how I packed it, and how the entire office ended up watching the consequences play out in real time, while I sat back and let the universe, and a little bit of planning, help you drift off to sleep with a satisfied smile. So, like I promised, this is where the plan goes from vague idea to very specific, very cozy kitchen revenge. I'm still in my little Minecraft cabin on screen, organizing chests and listening to the soft in-game music, and you can almost hear the parallel in real life as I start organizing ingredients on my counter. If you're just settling in for the night, grab your favorite blanket, because this part is oddly soothing. I knew I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted a consequence that would cling a little, the way their theft had been clinging to my mornings. So I did what any modern, mildly annoyed office worker does. I opened a private browser window and started researching safest foods that are way spicier than they look, and how much garlic is still technically normal. It felt like planning a tiny edible boss fight, but with absolutely no real danger. There were all these posts about people using ghost pepper flakes in microscopic amounts, or loading up on roasted garlic so the flavor blooms later. Over and over, the advice was the same. Don't go for anything harmful. Just go for something that lingers. That was exactly the vibe I wanted, a harmless lesson. A warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, but with, heartburn instead of HR. So I settled on a pasta. It sounded innocent. Cozy, even. I made a creamy tomato sauce that looked completely normal, smelled amazing, and tasted fine on the first bite. While the noodles boiled, I slowly sautéed an almost comical amount of minced garlic in olive oil, low and gentle, until the whole apartment filled with that deep, comforting smell. Then, once the heat was off, I stirred in a carefully measured mix of extra hot chili flakes and a tiny bit of ghost pepper powder I'd read way too many safety notes about. Here's the trick I learned from my late-night research. If you add the serious spice at the end and let it bloom in the warm oil, it doesn't scream right away. It strolls in. You get the cozy garlic and creamy tomato first, and then, about 3 or 4 bites in, the vibrations of heat start building in your mouth. Not hospital level. I really wish I had a giant glass of milk and maybe a different life choice level. When the pasta cooled, I packed it into my usual very recognizable glass container. I labeled it exactly like always, with my name in big letters and the date. No tricks there. The whole point was that it looked like the same leftovers I always brought, the comfortable little lunch that kept mysteriously vanishing. Then, for myself, I made a simple backup snack, plain sandwich, some fruit, and tucked it into a tiny insulated bag that I planned to keep in my desk drawer. On screen, my Minecraft character was doing the same thing in spirit, tucking rare ores into a hidden chest while leaving a very obvious, very tempting barrel of junk in the middle of the room. The next morning, I slid the pasta into the office fridge like nothing was different. Same shelf, same spot, same routine. I even paused for a moment, hand on the door, listening to the hum of the fridge and the low office chatter, and felt this small, guilty thrill run through me. I wasn't out to ruin anyone's day. I just wanted them to think twice the next time they eyed someone else's lunch. I closed the fridge, walked back to my desk, and opened my email with that strange mix of calm and anticipation. Somewhere, later that day, an unsuspecting stomach was going to meet a very delayed plot twist, and I was ready to just sit back, play a little more Minecraft, and let the story unfold. In the next part, I'll tell you exactly how the lunch thief took the bait, how the heat hit them at the worst possible moment, and how the entire office slowly realized what had happened, all while I stayed perfectly polite and let the universe and a bit of spice help you drift off to sleep. So lunchtime finally rolls around, and I'm sitting there at my desk in this cozy little office, listening to the low Minecraft music and the soft in-game vibrations of footsteps on stone. I wander my character over to the tiny wheat field I planted earlier, and in real life, I wander over to the fridge. The bait lunch is sitting there in its bright, inviting container. At least, it was when I left it. I open the door, feel that little puff of cold air, and, surprise but not really a surprise, the bait lunch is gone. Completely vanished. In its place is just an empty spot, like it never existed. I just kind of nod to myself, the way you do when a prediction comes true. Then I reach for my separate, totally boring-looking bag tucked in the corner, where my real sandwich and snack are waiting, safe and untouched. It's almost funny how invisible a plain brown bag can be when people are hunting for something more exciting. Back at my desk, I take a slow bite of my actual lunch and let my Minecraft character start harvesting crops. 1 row of wheat, 1 row of carrots, gentle little pops as each plant breaks. Nothing dramatic, just that cozy, repetitive rhythm that helps you drift off to sleep if you're listening at night. While the in-game sun moves across the square sky, I do a casual little scan of the office. I'm not doing a full detective routine. No tense music, no dramatic accusations. I'm just glancing around, the way you might look around your apartment during a small party to see who found the snack table. A couple of coworkers are chatting, someone scrolling on their phone, and then I notice one person shifting in their chair a bit more than usual. They take a bite of something from a suspiciously familiar-looking container and then pause. There's this tiny moment where their eyes widen. They start fanning their mouth, very subtly at first, like maybe a little breeze will cool down the fire building on their tongue. Over in Minecraft, I toss the harvested wheat into a chest and start loading furnaces with potatoes. letting the soft crackle of virtual flames match the invisible heat party happening across the room. A minute later, the same coworker stands up and walks briskly to the water cooler. They fill one cup, then another, then another. No words, just determined hydration. When they finally come back, they try to play it cool, but you can see the redness creeping up. That's when they let out this half laugh, half groan and say to the person next to them, "Wow, that new place's food is way spicier than I expected." Inside, I feel more amused than anything. There's no rush of vindictive triumph, just a gentle, warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, like a cozy blanket around a mildly offended lunch. I keep my face neutral, take another calm bite, and keep my character tending the furnaces, watching the baked potatoes stack up like tiny, square comfort foods. Hey, welcome back to the channel, by the way, if you're just drifting in and out. Grab your favorite blanket. Let's dive into this quiet little moment of petty revenge that doesn't need yelling or drama. The thief has basically raised their own hand and announced themselves, and I haven't said a single word. It's low stakes, it's calm, and it's the kind of story that just lets you settle in for the night. And the best part is, this isn't even the end. In the next part, I'll tell you how that one spicy lunch turned into a slow, office-wide realization, and how, without any confrontation at all, the mysterious disappearing meals suddenly stopped. So, the morning after the great spicy surprise, I decided to do one last very gentle thing. No confrontation, no calling anyone out. Just a calm little nudge. I walked into the break room, Minecraft-style chill in my brain, like I was just reorganizing chests, and I left one more note on the fridge. This one wasn't a warning, really. It was more like a cozy PSA. I wrote, "Hey everyone. Just a reminder that some of the meals in here may contain unexpected levels of spice or ingredients people are sensitive to. For your own comfort, it's safest to only eat what you brought or what's clearly shared. Thanks." No accusations, no arrows pointing at anyone, just a soft, polite boundary with a tiny wink built in, and you could feel the atmosphere shift just a little. You know that subtle change in an office where everyone kind of knows something, but no one says it out loud? A couple coworkers read the note and chuckled, that low, knowing laugh you hear at the end of a good story. One person glanced at it, then at the fridge, then at me, and suddenly found the floor tiles super interesting. Another coworker made a light joke about mystery curry roulette, and how they were sticking to their own leftovers from now on. No one said, "Aha, the thief," or anything dramatic like that. But the unspoken understanding was there, humming under the fluorescent lights like soft background music. The lunch thief had been lightly exposed, not by name, but by implication, and that lingering memory of the unexpected heat. It was like those Minecraft nights where you place just enough torches that the mob stops spawning, and everything feels a little safer, a little more comfortable. Over the next few days, the whole thing settled into a tiny, harmless office story. Remember that time someone stole the nuclear-level curry? Became one of those break room legends people tell new hires when the afternoon slump hits. It had the perfect mix of mild chaos and completely victimless revenge, the kind that gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served without ruining anyone's career. And mysteriously, after that day, my lunches stopped disappearing. Containers went into the fridge and came back out untouched, except by me. Labels were suddenly treated like sacred contracts. People started writing their names a little bigger, maybe adding a smiley face, like they respected the system now. No one was publicly shamed. There were no HR meetings, no angry emails, no dramatic showdowns. The only real consequence was a bit of internal embarrassment for whoever had been treating the communal fridge like a free buffet, and a new, quiet respect for labeled Tupperware. For me, it was perfect. I could sit at my desk, fork in hand, finally enjoying my own food in peace. No anxiety about whether my lunch would vanish, no need to escalate or turn the office into a courtroom, just that gentle satisfaction, the kind that helps you drift off to sleep when you replay the day at night. It's the same feeling I hope you get here when you grab your favorite blanket, listen to these cozy stories over the soft vibrations of Minecraft footsteps, and realize that sometimes the best revenge is barely more than a whisper. In the next part, we'll switch gears to a different workplace where the stakes are a little higher and the paper trail is a lot longer, but the payoff is just as quietly satisfying. Let's dive into that one next. So now that we've watched that whole lunch saga play out, you can kind of feel how something tiny, like a sandwich going missing, starts to carry a lot more weight over time. It's never just about the food. It's about feeling invisible, or like you don't quite have the right to speak up, because it's just a lunch, and you're supposed to be a good coworker and let it go. But when those little moments stack up day after day, they start to feel like vibrations under the floorboards, small at first, then harder to ignore. You tell yourself it's not worth making a scene. You don't want to be the one who ruins the office mood or the apartment style "we're all friends here" illusion in the break room. So you swallow it, and you swallow it, and eventually you are more hungry for basic respect than for the actual meal. That's why a story like this hits such a cozy nerve. The revenge itself is tiny and safe, but the emotional payoff is big. Labeling the food, setting the trap, letting the thief out themselves without a screaming match, that's a boundary in disguise. It's a way of saying, I see what you're doing, and I'm not going to let you keep doing it without turning it into a full-blown HR party. I know. Revenge and bedtime don't sound like the most natural combo, but this is where it starts to make sense. When it's harmless and a little bit silly, petty revenge can actually be a gentle way of reclaiming space. No one gets hurt, nothing explodes, and you still get that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. It's like the emotional equivalent of organizing your Minecraft chests after a long, chaotic day. And if you've ever felt annoyed by something small, someone always talking over you in meetings, a roommate borrowing your snacks, a neighbor leaving trash in the hallway, that doesn't make you petty. It just makes you human. Your brain notices patterns. It notices when the same person keeps taking and never giving back. Feeling that little flicker of irritation is normal. What matters is what you do with it. Pattern interrupt for a second. Notice your shoulders. Are they tense? Let them drop while we drift back into the game. On screen, I'm carving out a cozy little kitchen in our Minecraft base. Smooth stone floor, warm oak cabinets, a row of furnaces that look like tiny stoves. I'm placing item frames with bread, cooked chicken, maybe a golden apple or two, our own protected lunch stash, where nothing mysteriously disappears. There's something really soothing about that, right? In this world, we can make a dining nook where every plate has a place, every chest is labeled, and everything you've prepared will still be there when you come back. As the soft in-game music plays and the night settles outside our pixel windows, you can let these small, satisfying stories help you drift off to sleep, knowing that even everyday annoyances can be resolved in gentle, almost playful ways. In the next part, we'll zoom back out to a bigger scale office drama, where those same quiet boundaries turn into a full career reset. So now that we've zoomed out from that bigger office drama and watched a whole career quietly reset, this is the part of the night where everything can start to soften a little. The tension's done its job. You've had that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, and now the goal is just to let your brain float. By this point in the video, you might notice your eyes getting a bit heavy, or the details of the stories starting to blur together. That's not a problem at all. That's the point. You don't have to remember who worked in which apartment building, or which manager tried to crash which office party. You can just let the words turn into cozy background vibrations, like low music in another room, steady and predictable. On screen, the Minecraft world is starting to feel more like an actual little town we live in than just a random seed. I've carved out simple paths that connect the starter house to the farm, and from the farm over to that tiny storage shed where all the chests are finally organized. Lanterns line the walkways, casting this soft golden light that makes every corner look safe and comfortable, even as the in-game night settles in. If you glance up, you'll see more structure now. Maybe a bridge over a small river, a couple of cozy cabins with warm windows, and a little garden that keeps growing every time we pass through. Nothing flashy. No jump scares. Just slow, satisfying progress that's as predictable as a bedtime routine. It's the visual version of a deep breath. From here on out, you can treat the narration like a gentle stream of background thoughts. You don't need to follow every twist of every revenge plan. If your mind drifts halfway through a sentence and comes back during the next story, that's completely okay. Think of my voice as something you float on, instead of something you have to chase. And if you do drift all the way off and then wake up later in the night, that's fine too. You can scrub back to a familiar spot, or just let the video keep rolling and rejoin wherever we are. A lot of people use the same sounds and the same voice night after night. It trains your brain to recognize, oh, this means sleep now. I'm basically volunteering to be your slightly nerdy white noise machine. In a minute, we're going to slow things down even more. The next stories are still satisfying, but they lean gentler, more wholesome resolutions, more people learning their lesson without total disaster, more conflicts that end in quiet understanding. So grab your favorite blanket, Settle into whatever position feels most comfortable, and let's dive into the softer side of late-night justice as the in-game rain starts to fall and the whole world hums itself to sleep. As that softer rain of justice settles in, I want to shift us into another one of those calm, low-drama stories that still gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. This one is all about housing again, but instead of screaming matches in the hallway, it's quiet emails, patient waiting, and one very underestimated tenant who knows how to read the rules. Welcome back to the channel, by the way. While the in-game night rolls over the Minecraft village and I slowly place down some lanterns, let's dive into a story that might feel uncomfortably familiar if you've ever rented an apartment from someone who thinks maintenance is just a decorative word on the lease. In this story, I'm the quiet tenant, the kind whose music is always low, who never throws a party, who takes my trash out on time and actually stacks the recycling neatly. My little apartment isn't fancy, but it's cozy in that way you can feel in your bones. There's a small bedroom just big enough for a bed and a lamp, a living room with a soft rug, and a kitchen where the hum of the fridge blends with the gentle Minecraft vibrations from my speakers at night. It could have been perfect, comfortable, simple, exactly the kind of place you want to come back to after a long day and just let these stories help you drift off to sleep. There was only one problem: the heater. Or more accurately, the heater-shaped decoration on my wall that occasionally pretended to work when it felt like it. At first, it was just a few chilly nights. I mentioned it to my landlord in a friendly way. A quick text. "Hey, the heater's acting up a bit. No rush, but could someone take a look?" He replied right away with lots of reassurance. "Absolutely, thanks for letting me know. I'll have maintenance out there this week." That sounded reasonable, so I layered up, made some tea, and waited. A week went by. Then two. The nights got colder, and the heater decided that being purely decorative was its true calling. I sent another gentle reminder. No anger, no threats, just, "Hey, just checking in on that heater appointment." Again, I got the same cheerful promise. "You're on the list." This became a pattern. Promise, delay, silence. I stayed patient longer than most people would. I borrowed a space heater from a friend. I wore socks to bed. I told myself, they're probably busy, it's fine. I wanted to be that easy tenant, the one who never causes trouble. But here's the thing about being quiet and patient. It doesn't mean you're powerless. One especially cold night, wrapped in 2 blankets and watching my breath fog slightly in my own apartment, I finally sat down with my lease and a cup of tea. Then I opened a new tab and started reading through my city's tenant rights page. Turns out, the rules were very clear about heat, timelines, and what tenants are allowed to do when basic services aren't provided. No shouting required, no door slamming. Just a few specific forms, a couple of certified letters, and a tiny procedural switch that would turn my landlord's favorite word, later, into right now. And once I flipped that switch, his whole attitude toward my decorative heater changed almost overnight. So there I was, armed with my tiny stack of printouts and a bookmarked tenant rights page, sitting in an apartment that felt more like a walk-in freezer than a home. As you listen and maybe watch me slowly stack spruce planks in Minecraft, you can almost picture it. Late at night, laptop glow, breath just barely visible in the chilly air. Not dramatic, not dangerous, just uncomfortably cold in a way that gets into your thoughts. The first thing I really noticed was the draft. It would slip under the bedroom window and curl around my ankles like a lazy, unwelcome cat. At night, when everything was quiet, I could hear the faint whistling through the frame, this soft, high note under the gentle music I played to help me drift off to sleep. Sometimes there was a slow, patient drip from the ceiling above the kitchen sink, each drop landing with a tiny tap that echoed more than it should have in such a small apartment. I did what most of us try first. I was polite. I sent a cheerful email. "Hey, just wanted to let you know, the heater doesn't seem to be working properly. No rush, but it's getting a little cold at night." The reply came back a day later. "Someone will come by next week. No name, no date, just that vague, floaty promise." Next week turned into another cold front. I added a second blanket, then a third. I started sleeping in socks and a hoodie, wrapped up like I was camping indoors. When the wind picked up outside, the window would rattle gently, and those little vibrations ran through the wall and into my head, making it weirdly hard to relax. It's funny how you can be technically in bed and still not feel comfortable enough to actually sleep. I texted, "Hey, just checking in about the heater. Still pretty chilly in here at night." The answer, "Yeah, we'll get someone over there soon. It's just a busy season." I called once too, standing in the kitchen, listening to the soft hum of the fridge that never quite shut up. He sighed on the phone, like I was asking for a full building remodel instead of basic heat. Over time, the cold stopped being just a temperature thing and turned into a routine. Wake up groggy because I'd tossed and turned. Make coffee while watching my breath puff faintly in the morning light. Go to work a little more tired each day. Come home to an apartment that felt less like a cozy nest and more like a place I was just renting space in until I could escape. Whenever I brought it up, the landlord had this way of brushing it off that sounded almost rehearsed. It's not that bad. We had the system checked last year. You're probably just sensitive to the cold. Sometimes he'd mention how expensive repairs were right now, how I was lucky my rent was so low for the area, as if being cold at night was part of the discount package. Meanwhile, I kept doing these tiny, tired rituals to make it livable. I'd warm my hands over the stove for a minute before bed. I'd put a towel along the bottom of the window to block the draft. I'd put on a long Minecraft video in the background, letting the soft in-game rain and gentle building sounds give my brain something calm to focus on while I tried to ignore how my toes were going numb. One particularly cold night, wrapped in every blanket I owned and still feeling that thin line of air sneaking across my neck, something in me just clicked. I was done being the polite reminder person. I opened my laptop, pulled up that tenant rights page again, and this time I read every single line about heat, repairs, and what landlords are actually required to do. I didn't slam anything. I didn't yell. I just let the quiet frustration settle into a plan. If he wanted to pretend this was all in my head, I was going to answer with something he couldn't ignore. The rules. And once I saw what those rules actually said about minimum temperatures, response times, and what tenants can legally do when basic services aren't provided, the whole situation started to look a lot less like me complaining and a lot more like him gambling on my ignorance. That was the night I stopped just enduring the cold and started getting ready to turn it into the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. So, grab your favorite blanket, because in the next part we're going to quietly, calmly, and very cozily put those rules to work. So that night, with the apartment still a little too cold and the vibrations from the heater rattling faintly in the walls, I made myself a cup of tea and pulled on my warmest hoodie. The party noise from downstairs had finally died off. The Minecraft music in the background was soft and steady, and it felt like the perfect moment to quietly arm myself with information instead of just frustration. I know, spending your night reading tenant laws doesn't sound glamorous, but there's something oddly cozy about sitting in the dim light, laptop open while the rest of the world is asleep. It's like you're sneaking into a secret library of rules that most people never bother to read. I typed in my city tenant rights heat requirements and just started clicking. Welcome back to the channel, by the way. This is that point in the story where the revenge stops being emotional and starts being organized. I found the official Housing Authority website, and it was surprisingly readable. No wild technical jargon, just simple lines like, landlords must maintain a minimum indoor temperature during winter months. Repairs must be made within a reasonable time after written notice. Safe, habitable conditions are not optional, they're required. As I scrolled, I realized every miserable cold night I'd had wasn't just bad luck. It was a violation of very basic rules. The site even explained, in calm, boring government language, that tenants could file formal complaints if the landlord ignored those responsibilities. They laid out the steps like a recipe. Document the problem, keep a timeline, send written notice, then escalate if nothing changes. That was the moment the helpless feeling started to loosen its grip. Instead of doom scrolling, I opened a blank email. Let's dive into how weirdly empowering it is to just write things down. I started with the facts, the dates I first reported the issue, the follow-up messages, the times he brushed me off. I added the exact indoor temperatures I'd recorded on my phone and attached photos of me in a winter coat next to the thermostat and little ice crystals forming on the inside of the window. Then, very calmly, I quoted the specific regulations from the housing site. No threats, no insults, just according to Section X, units must be maintained at Y degrees between these months. As of these dates, my apartment has been below that threshold. I sent the email to my landlord, and following the instructions on the website, I copied the local housing authority as well. It wasn't a dramatic movie moment. It was a quiet click in the middle of the night. But when I hit send, something shifted. I wasn't just the shivering tenant begging for help anymore. I was a person who knew the rules and had followed them. That tiny, calm act felt like the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, just beginning to simmer, And in the next part, we'll see what happens when someone who's been coasting on your ignorance suddenly realizes you've read the rule book. So, grab your favorite blanket, let the Minecraft sounds help you drift off to sleep, and get ready, because this is where the cozy paperwork starts to bite back, very gently and very effectively. So, our cozy paperwork has just gently sunk its teeth in. And this is where things finally start to shift. That warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served is still low and steady in the background, like the soft Minecraft music while I tidy up a chest room. A few days after filing the formal complaint, I open my email, and there it is, an official notice that a city inspector will be visiting the building. Not a maybe, not a we'll look into it, a date, a time, and a clear purpose. To verify the exact conditions I described in that long, carefully written message. While I'm reading it, I'm slowly fixing a broken path in my Minecraft world, replacing cracked cobblestone with smooth stone. One patient block at a time. Almost like someone flipped a switch, my phone suddenly turns into a tiny buzzing party. The same landlord who took weeks to respond to basic questions is now calling, texting, emailing, all within an hour. Hey, buddy, we can get someone out there tomorrow. We're very concerned about your comfort. We had no idea it was that bad in the apartment. The vibrations from my phone are more active than the in-game slimes. It's mildly ironic, right? Months of we'll get to it when we can, and now, with an inspector on the calendar, there's this frantic rush to look responsible. While they scramble, I stay polite and calm. I answer messages. I confirm that yes, I'll be home. I let repair people in when they actually show up. And quietly, I keep documenting everything. Photos, timestamps, who came, what they did, what they didn't even touch. On screen, I'm doing the same thing in Minecraft, slowly upgrading tools, swapping out a half-broken wooden pickaxe for iron, then iron for diamond, fixing leaky roofs on my little cabins, patching holes, placing lanterns where there used to be dark, unsafe corners. Each upgrade in-game mirrors one more thing that finally gets addressed in the real apartment. A plumber finally looks at the leaking pipe. An electrician actually tests the flickering lights instead of just wiggling the switch. Inspection day arrives with none of the drama the landlord seemed to expect. The inspector is calm, methodical, and very familiar with this kind of story. They walk through the unit, clipboard in hand, asking simple questions, checking outlets, noting water damage, looking at the mold that's still there because, surprise, a last-minute wipe-down doesn't fix a long-term problem. They confirm the issues, in writing. Right there, the inspector explains to the landlord that they now have a clear deadline to bring everything up to code, along with potential fines and other penalties if they don't follow through. It's not angry, it's just official, predictable, like a redstone clock quietly pulsing in the background. As I lay down the final row of polished stone along my Minecraft path, the whole place, both pixel and real, starts to feel more stable, more comfortable. And in the next part, we'll see what happens when that ticking deadline gets closer, and the landlord realizes this isn't just one annoyed tenant anymore. It's the system itself watching very closely. Oh, and welcome back to the channel if you've drifted in mid-story. Let's dive into how that plays out next. So when that deadline finally rolled around, it was like flipping a switch in both worlds. In Minecraft, I'm placing the last few lanterns on our cozy little cabin. And in the real apartment, OP wakes up to the sound of actual professionals at the door instead of another ignored email. The system had spoken. And suddenly this one annoying tenant was the top priority on the list. They didn't just send one guy with a toolbox and a shrug either. A full crew showed up early. The kind of early where you're still wrapped in your blanket, blinking at the morning light and wondering what universe you've slipped into. While I'm smoothing out the path outside our cabin, they're pulling out the old wheezing heater, checking lines, testing temperatures, and replacing it with a unit that actually works. Within a couple of hours, the place is finally warm instead of 3 sweaters and a hot water bottle, cold. Then it's the leaks. Another team comes through with sealant, new caulking, and actual ladders instead of excuses. They trace every drip, reseal the window frames, and patch up the ceiling. Outside in the Minecraft night, gentle in-game rain starts to fall, and for once it's only in the game. No more bucket symphony. No more late-night drip soundtrack competing with the soft music you put on to help you drift off to sleep. The faulty windows that rattled with every gust of wind, gone. They're replaced with solid, double-paned ones that close properly and lock without you having to body slam them. It's almost funny in a quiet way. Months of "we'll look into it," followed by one day of focused work that fixes everything. And tucked inside the next rent statement, There's a small credit and a brief, carefully worded apology. Not because the landlord suddenly grew a conscience, but because it's cheaper than ongoing fines, legal trouble, or having the housing authority breathing down their neck. From that point on, the tone shifts. Emails that used to vanish into the void now get replies within a day. Maintenance requests are met with, "We'll have someone out this week," and then, wild concept, someone actually shows up. OP hasn't become their favorite person. They've become the tenant whose file is flagged as "Do Not Ignore." Quiet power, courtesy of a paper trail. And in the middle of all that, there's this deep physical relief. The apartment is warm, dry, and still. No draft sneaking under the covers. No mystery puddles waiting in the morning. Just steady heat, quiet windows, and the kind of comfortable, predictable environment your brain can finally relax in. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, but softened into gratitude instead of anger. As I line up chests and organize our little Minecraft storage room, everything in OP's world slots into place too. They curl up at night, listen to the low hum of a working heater instead of the vibrations of a leaky pipe, and actually fall asleep without planning their next email. And in the next part, we'll see how that new balance holds up over time, and what it does to a landlord who now knows someone is quietly, calmly paying attention. So for now, grab your favorite blanket, settle into the cozy sounds of the game, and let's dive into how life looks after the storm has finally passed. Now that the storm has passed a bit, this is where the quiet kind of victory starts to glow. Our tenant didn't have to scream, didn't have to slam doors, didn't have to turn their apartment into a war zone. They just learned the rules. They read the lease, looked up the housing laws, and let the system do what it was supposed to do. I know. It's not as flashy as some wild revenge prank with paint buckets and surprise vibrations in the ceiling, but there's something really peaceful about it. Instead of matching the landlord's energy, they lowered their own. They documented, they stayed calm, and they used the exact channels the landlord thought nobody would ever bother with. That's its own kind of warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served. For a lot of people, especially if you're someone who hates conflict, that approach can feel like a lifeline. When you don't know your rights, every knock on the door feels like a threat. Every email feels like it might explode. It's all vague anxiety and worst-case scenarios. But once you know, okay, they legally have to give notice, or they can't charge me for that, the fear starts to shrink. It turns from this big, shadowy monster into a list of clear options. It's the same idea as having a bedtime routine. Your brain likes predictability. Low arousal, predictable content, like this slow Minecraft building and these calm stories, helps your mind settle because it knows what's coming next. In the same way, knowing your rights gives your nervous system a script. If something happens, you already know the next line, and that can make you feel a little safer and more grounded, even if you never actually have to use that information. Just knowing that there are processes and protections out there, that you're not completely at the mercy of someone else's mood, can be incredibly comforting. It means you're allowed to relax in your own space. You're allowed to sleep. Speaking of space, while we're talking, I'm back at our little Minecraft base, adding some cozy finishing touches. I've tucked a row of beds against the wall, with soft carpets leading up to them like little runways for sleep. There's a fireplace crackling in the corner, with the in-game music turned down low so it feels more like a gentle hum than a party. Pattern interrupt. Imagine if every real landlord had to spend one night in this Minecraft cabin before they could raise rent. Just them, a bed, a chest of neatly organized items, and a sign on the wall listing tenant rights. As I place lanterns and make sure every corner is lit but not too bright, I'm thinking about you, winding down for the night. You deserve to feel this level of safe and comfortable in your real bedroom, not just in a blocky little world on a screen. So welcome back to the channel, welcome back to this ritual, and let's dive into how this tenant's new sense of security shapes what comes next, and how their calm confidence quietly changes the balance of power for good. So while that calm confidence is settling in for them, I want things to get even softer for you. For a little bit here, I'm going to let the Minecraft world do most of the talking, and we'll just float along with it together. Right now, my character is down in a simple little tunnel. Nothing fancy, just stone on both sides and a low ceiling overhead. The pickaxe comes down in the same slow rhythm, tap, 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 each block breaking with that familiar crumble. Then a tiny step forward, then tap, tap, tap again. It's the kind of repetitive task that doesn't need thinking. Just gentle motions and quiet sounds that help you drift off to sleep. If you want, you can let your breathing fall into that same rhythm. Not a formal exercise or anything, just noticing how your inhale can line up with a couple of swings, and your exhale can ride along with the footsteps as we shuffle deeper into the mine. Soft little vibrations through the headphones, like distant, cozy construction in the basement of a peaceful apartment building you don't have to worry about. Every so often there's a tiny reward, a patch of coal, a single piece of iron, maybe a bit of copper that we don't really need but feels satisfying to collect anyway. I mine it slowly, no rush at all, and then go right back to the straight line, like a calm conveyor belt carrying you further into the night. After a while we climb back up, and the scene shifts to long, neat rows of crops, wheat, carrots, maybe some potatoes, all planted in tidy lines that stretch further than the screen can quite show. I walk down one row, placing seeds one by one, the soft plip of each plant going into the soil, matching my footsteps on the tilled ground. Then I turn, walk the next row, and do it again. It's almost like low-key music, just made of tiny game sounds instead of instruments. If you've lost track of how many stories we've already gone through, that's completely okay. You're not here to keep score or remember every single detail of every revenge. You're here to feel that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, and then let the details blur into something gentle and sleepy. Think of the stories like waves at a quiet beach. You don't count them, you just let them roll in. There are still a few more stories to come, but they're going to get slower, softer, and even more wholesome from here. I know, revenge stories for bedtime sounds counterintuitive, but the way these next ones wrap up is more like emotional housekeeping than drama. A little tidying of loose ends before the lights go out. For now, though, I'm going to slide the character over to a tiny dock and cast a fishing line into the water. The bobber bounces gently, the water makes that soft splash, and every so often there's a quiet tug and a little whoosh as a fish pops out. Between those moments, there's just stillness. If you're still wide awake, this is your chance to let your mind wander a bit. Maybe you imagine your own cozy Minecraft cabin on the shore, lanterns glowing, a tiny party of friendly villagers inside, or maybe it's just you wrapped up in blankets, watching the pixelated night sky. Either way, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to this quiet part of the ritual, and grab your favorite blanket while the game keeps unfolding in the background, getting you ready for the next even sleepier story. And while that little Minecraft cabin glows softly on the shoreline, with the pixelated night hanging over the water, it's the perfect moment to shift into something a little different. We've had noisy neighbors and vibrating ceilings, but now I want to tell you about a quieter kind of revenge, the kind that sneaks up on you in the form of a very patient customer service rep. So, welcome back to the channel, and if you haven't already, grab your favorite blanket, let the low Minecraft music and gentle in-game vibrations settle around you, and let's dive into a story that's more about boundaries than blow-ups. This one comes from the front lines of customer service, where the lights are fluorescent instead of cozy, but the justice is still surprisingly warm. I know, customer service and the warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served don't usually go in the same sentence, but stay with me. The premise here is simple. There's a rude, entitled regular who thinks the rules don't apply to them. They yell, they demand special treatment. They act like every staff member is just furniture in their personal apartment of the world. And then there's one rep, sitting quietly at their desk, who remembers everything. From here on, I'm going to slip into their voice. Imagine the soft hum of computers instead of crickets, the click of keyboards instead of Minecraft footsteps. Most days, I'd say, the call center is just a steady river of voices, people asking about bills, returns, account resets. I answer the same questions on loop while the hold music plays in my headset like a slightly off-key lullaby. It's not glamorous, but it's predictable, and predictable can be oddly cozy when the rest of your life is loud. Every now and then, though, the calm breaks. There was this one customer, I'd continue, who called in like clockwork. You know the type. They'd start the moment the line connected. Raised voice talking over me, demanding exceptions to every policy. Fees waived, deadlines ignored, special extensions, all with this tone that said I was invisible, just a button they pressed to get what they wanted. On the surface, I stay professional. My voice is calm, my script is polished, and I'm not here to pick a fight. But I'm also not a doormat. While they rant, I'm typing. I'm adding notes. I'm marking dates, times, exact phrases. I'm watching their patterns stretch out across the account like a long, messy timeline. And here's where the quiet revenge starts to shimmer. Because in customer service, the rules can actually protect you if you know them well enough. One night, I'd say, as the Minecraft sky slowly lightens in the background, A particular call came in. Same customer, same attitude. But this time, something on my screen was different. And it meant I finally had a way to apply policy exactly as written and make sure they couldn't treat us that way anymore. We'll get into what changed on that screen and how one tiny policy update turned into a boundary they never saw coming in just a moment. So, welcome back to the channel, and to that same soft little office where the Minecraft rain is still pattering in the background while this customer's voice cuts through like static. On my screen, that tiny policy update is glowing quietly. But before we get to how that plays out, I need to show you the pattern that got us here. Patterns are comforting in games, and a lot less cozy when they're people behaving badly. The first time I dealt with him, it was over something tiny, a shipping delay of 1 day. I greeted him, calm and steady, and he immediately raised his voice like I'd personally stolen his package. He demanded overnight shipping refunds, extra discounts, and kept repeating that he was a loyal customer who shouldn't have to wait. Every time I explained the policy, he talked over me, like my words were just background music instead of basic information. Another night he called because an item was out of stock. That happens. It's like when you go mining and the chest doesn't have the ore you hoped for. But he treated it like a personal insult. He belittled the new hire sitting next to me, calling her incompetent because she offered an alternative product. I remember watching her shoulders sink as she muted the call to ask for help, her eyes shining a little under the harsh office lights while my own voice stayed low and even. Over time, everyone started recognizing his number on the caller ID. You could feel the vibrations of dread move through the room. Someone would sigh quietly. Another would exchange that weary look that says, "Your turn, I did the last one." Even the supervisors, who were usually upbeat, would suddenly find something else to do, leaving frontline reps to absorb the impact while trying to stay comfortable and calm for the rest of the night. Management knew about him. They'd heard recordings. But every time someone suggested banning him, the answer was the same soft corporate no. They were afraid of complaints, bad reviews, the kind of public tantrum that looks worse than the private ones. So we were told to do our best, which is a gentle way of saying you're on your own. It's hard to relax into your shift when you know your company won't set a basic boundary. So I did the one thing I could. I documented. After every call, I added calm, factual notes. Customer raised voice when informed of standard processing time. Customer refused to allow explanation of policy. Customer belittled employee by calling them useless. No emotion, no revenge language, just a quiet stack of incidents. Line after line, like placing blocks in a long hallway, building a clear picture of who he really was. And then came the day he crossed a line we couldn't ignore. He called in furious that a refund hadn't posted instantly. When I gently reminded him of the standard processing window, he snapped. He didn't just complain about the company. He went after me by name, mocking my voice, saying I sounded too stupid to read a script, and then flat out refused to verify his account, insisting that someone important should just fix it without questions. In that moment, with his insults hanging in the air and the policy update glowing on my screen, something in me settled. I stayed soft-spoken, but I knew this night was going to end differently. That warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served was still far away, but the foundation was finally in place. In the next part, I'll tell you how those quiet notes, that tiny policy change, and one very stubborn customer turned into a perfectly legal, perfectly documented boundary that even management couldn't ignore, and how it might just help you drift off to sleep, knowing that sometimes patience really does pay off. So now, with that quiet foundation laid, welcome back to the channel, and picture this. In our cozy little Minecraft world, I'm just slowly mining through a calm patch of stone, while the rep sits at their desk, taking a deep breath and opening the customer's profile. The office is humming softly, kind of like the background music you're hearing right now, low and steady, meant to help you drift off to sleep. They start scrolling, line after line of notes, the missed payments, the screaming phone calls, the threats, the way they treated every rep like a punching bag whenever a tiny policy didn't bend their way. It's all there, in simple language, no drama, just dates and descriptions. And as our protagonist scrolls, they realize something important. This isn't just a difficult customer anymore. This is a pattern that the system actually recognizes. While I'm organizing chests in this little Minecraft apartment, stacking cobblestone and oak planks into neat rows, the rep is doing their own kind of organizing. They quietly open a new internal form and flag the account for review. No big speech, no confrontation, Just a clear, calm summary. Here are the incidents. Here's the language used. Here's how many staff members have logged stress or after-call notes. They recommend that management consider restrictions, maybe even a ban if the abuse continues. It's like placing all the messy blocks into the right slots so the picture finally makes sense. A few days later, there's a meeting. Not a dramatic shouting match. Just a small room, stale coffee, and a shared screen with that account history pulled up in black and white. One manager scrolls. Another rubs their forehead. Someone quietly says, "I had no idea it was this bad." The rep doesn't gloat. They just explain, in that same even tone, how every outburst ripples through the team like bad vibrations from a loud party next door, keeping everyone on edge when they're just trying to get through the night shift. Then comes the part that gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served without turning it into a witch hunt. The rep suggests something firm but fair. Future communication only in writing so there's a clear record, or limiting certain privileges if the customer keeps crossing the line. No revenge fantasy, just boundaries, written down and agreed to. Policy becomes a shield instead of a weapon. By the time the meeting ends, the rep walks back to their desk feeling different, supported. They know that the next time this customer calls in, they won't be alone. There are notes. There are rules. There are managers who finally see the full story. And as I place another lantern on our cozy Minecraft porch, the rep quietly prepares for that next contact, knowing that this time, the system is on their side. And in the next part, you'll see exactly how that changes everything. So now, with all those notes in the system and that quiet management support finally in place, we get to the moment everything's been building toward. I know, revenge stories for bedtime sounds a little funny, but this is that softer kind of justice that gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, while the Minecraft rain taps gently on our cozy cabin roof. The very next week, the customer calls in, completely unaware anything has changed. In their mind, it's just another comfortable night of them being the main character. They punch in the account number, probably already rehearsing which insult they're going to use first, like they're pre-gaming for a party no one else wants to attend. On screen, I'm just organizing chests, stacking cobblestone and oak planks, letting the soft in-game music and those little mining vibrations keep everything calm. The rep sees the name pop up, that name. Their heart does that old reflexive stutter, and then doesn't spiral. Because this time, there's a manager standing just behind them, and a supervisor quietly listening in on the call. The rep takes a breath, keeps their voice low and steady, and says, "Thank you for calling. How can I help you today?" No edge, no fear. Just practiced, comfortable professionalism. Right away, the customer tries the usual routine. They talk over the greeting. They demand an exception. They hint that they'll make trouble if they don't get what they want. But instead of scrambling, the rep calmly pulls up the conduct notes. While I slowly place lanterns along our little Minecraft path, they say, in that same even tone, that due to repeated violations of behavior and conduct policies, certain accommodations are no longer available on this account. You can almost hear the record scratch on the other end. There's this long, offended silence. Then the confusion hits. The customer insists this must be a mistake. They've always gotten this before. They raise their voice, trying to steamroll like they always have. The rep doesn't match the volume. They repeat the policy, gently, almost like they're reading a bedtime story, and add that management has reviewed the account and confirmed the decision. That part is important. The rep isn't dangling out there alone anymore. When the customer demands a supervisor, the supervisor is already there, nodding, giving a thumbs up, ready to back them up word for word. The message doesn't change. No secret override. No magical exception. Just the quiet weight of the system finally working the way it was supposed to. Eventually, the customer reaches for their old favorite threat. "If you don't do this, I'll just take my business elsewhere." This time, the rep doesn't panic or rush to fix everything. They simply say in that same calm voice that the customer is free to make whatever decision feels best for them, and that they'll be happy to assist with any standard requests in the meantime. That's the pattern interrupt right there. The customer expects begging, fear, some desperate attempt to keep them. Instead, they get acceptance, a boundary, a polite wall they can't shout through. After a few more sputtered protests, they realize nothing is budging, and the call ends with an awkward, grumpy click instead of a triumphant victory lap. When the line disconnects, the rep slowly takes off their headset, and the whole room just exhales. It's like when you finally light up the last corner of a dark Minecraft cave and realize there were no monsters left, just shadows. Coworkers peek over their monitors with small smiles. The manager quietly says, "You handled that perfectly." No one questions whether it was really that bad. No one suggests they should have just put up with it. For the first time, the staff knows the abuse they endured wasn't invisible. There are notes. There are consequences. And the next time that name pops up, they won't feel that familiar dread pooling in their stomach. They'll know they're allowed to be safe and comfortable at work, even with difficult customers. As I tuck our Minecraft character into a tiny apartment-style loft bed above the storage room, the whole place glowing softly, you can almost feel the collective relief from that call center settling over the night. Boundaries held, policies enforced. And in the next section, we'll zoom out a bit and look at how this one calm conversation quietly reshaped the entire workplace culture, in a way that might just help you drift off to sleep with a little more faith in systems actually working. So now that the dust has settled in that little call center, and our Minecraft village is glowing softly against the night, I want to sit with this one for a minute. This isn't the kind of revenge story with slammed doors or shouting matches. It's the quiet kind, where someone calmly says, "No, this isn't okay," and then lets the system do the heavy lifting. The rep didn't storm into the manager's office or start a dramatic scene on the floor. They documented. They stayed calm. They let every rude word, every broken promise, every policy violation leave a little paper trail. And slowly, almost gently, that trail led everyone to a safer place. The harasser was removed, the team was backed up, and the rules that were supposed to protect them finally did. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served, but with the volume turned way down low. That's something I love about these stories. We can't control how other people behave. We can't reach inside a difficult customer's brain and flip the respectful switch. But sometimes, we can shape the systems around us. We can nudge policies, gather proof, talk to HR, or loop in a supervisor who actually listens, so the next person who picks up the phone doesn't have to take the same hit. If you've ever worked in a customer-facing job, you know those vibrations in your chest when the phone rings and you're bracing for whatever is on the other end. Retail, call centers, food service, front desks in some tiny apartment office. It all runs on patience and a smile, even when people are being awful. Your feelings about that are valid. You're not too sensitive for being shaken up by someone screaming at you over nothing. You deserve what this rep eventually got. Calm backup, clear boundaries, and a manager who says, "No, my team doesn't have to put up with that." Even if you've never had that in real life, you can borrow it here for a while. Let this story be a little reminder that you should be treated like a human being, not a complaint sponge. As the Minecraft music dips into that softer, sleepy loop, I'm just walking slowly through our little base, checking chests, making sure everything is organized and comfortable for the night. It's like the call center after the new policy kicked in. No more constant dread, just a predictable rhythm, a routine that lets your nervous system breathe out. I know. Revenge stories for bedtime sounds counterintuitive, but when they end like this, they're really stories about safety, about stability returning to a place that used to feel unpredictable and loud, like finally getting a neighbor who doesn't throw a party at 2 a.m., or a shift where you know your boss will actually back you up. So as the Minecraft sky slides fully into midnight and the last villagers head inside, we're going to start easing into the gentlest part of the video. The next moments will be even softer and more spacious, with longer stretches of quiet building and slow exploration, just to help you drift off to sleep. We'll leave the drama behind and sink into that cozy, low-energy hum where nothing urgent is happening, and you can finally let your mind wander and fade with the night. So now that the drama and the big revenge twists have settled down, we're just floating in this softer part of the night together. The builds are slower, the music is quieter, and my voice is here mostly to keep you company while you drift. You might only be catching every third word at this point, and honestly, that's perfect. If you're still awake enough to notice, thank you for spending this time with me tonight. Whether you clicked in right at the beginning or you somehow woke up halfway through and realized the Minecraft apartment was tidier than your real one, I'm really glad you're here. A lot of you are probably half asleep already, letting the sounds blur together into one cozy hum, and that's exactly what this is for. If you made it through every single story, from the petty office payback to the landlord who got gently demolished by their own emails, that's awesome. If you zoned out somewhere around the third or fourth build and your brain just wandered off into its own dream party, that's also a win. As long as you feel even a tiny bit more relaxed, more comfortable in your bed or on your couch, then this video has done its job. I know. Revenge stories and blocky mining don't sound like the most traditional bedtime mix, but there's something about that warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served that can actually help you drift off to sleep. When the bad behavior gets called out and the receipts line up, your brain doesn't have to keep replaying your own frustrating day. It can just exhale and let the gentle vibrations of the game sounds and the stories carry you. If you've noticed that this combo of Reddit stories and slow Minecraft building helps your thoughts quiet down, you can totally turn it into a little routine. Maybe every night you welcome back to the channel in your own way. Dim the lights, grab your favorite blanket, set your screen nice and low, and let's dive into whatever cozy world we're working on next. Over time, your brain starts to recognize, oh, this sound, this pacing, this is when we sleep. Pattern interrupt for the night. You don't have to do anything else. No more decisions. No more fixing things, just listening, or not listening, and letting yourself be here. If you'd like to support more calm, sleepy content like this, feel free, only if it feels easy, to subscribe, or leave a quiet comment about what kinds of stories and builds relax you most. Maybe you love neatly organized chests, or soft in-game rain, or those long mining tunnels that go on forever. Your ideas help shape what we explore next, but there's no pressure at all. This is your rest time. For now, you can let go of whatever's left from today. Any little worries about work, school, family, that one awkward sentence you keep replaying, you can set them down outside the room for the night. Let the stories fade into the background. Let the Minecraft sounds turn into a gentle, distant rhythm, and let your body sink heavier into the mattress. You're safe, you're here, and the night can hold you while you sleep. And as all of that settles, you can feel the last little vibrations of the day just easing out of your body. On screen, my Minecraft character isn't doing anything intense anymore. No more mining, no more mobs, no more big revenge builds, or complicated redstone. I'm just slowly walking through the base we've been working on together, like a quiet tour at the end of a long, cozy party in our little blocky apartment. We drift past the storage room, chests neatly organized, labels all lined up, everything calm and predictable. Then I stop by the big window, and outside, the in-game rain has started. You can hear it, soft and steady, like static from another, gentler world. My character just stands there for a moment, watching the drops streak down the glass while the fireplace crackles behind us, filling the room with that imaginary warmth your brain can still feel. The music in the background is low and slow now, and I'm going to start talking a little less and a little softer, so those sounds can come forward. Each sentence gets a bit more spaced out, with more silence in between, just enough room for the rain and the fire and the tiny footsteps to help you drift off to sleep. It's like letting the game tuck you in, one quiet sound at a time. We wander over to the fireplace, and I let my character just stand there, looking into the flames. No rushing, no goals left to chase tonight. Everything that needed to be done in this world is done for now. The stories have wrapped up. The warm, fuzzy feeling of justice being served can just glow in the background, and the only task left is rest. If your eyes are still open, you're welcome to keep watching the slow walk around the base. If they're already heavy, you don't need to move at all. You can just let the video keep playing. Let the familiar Minecraft sounds and gentle music turn into a kind of audio nightlight, a little signal to your brain that this is a safe, comfortable place you can come back to anytime you need it. It doesn't matter if it's the middle of the night or you're trying to sneak in a nap while the rest of the world is too loud. You can always press play, grab your favorite blanket, and welcome back to the channel in your own head, knowing this cozy routine is here waiting for you. So I'm going to start saying less and letting the game say more. The narration will fade, but the rain will keep falling, the fire will keep crackling, and the soft music will keep looping in the background, smoothing out any sharp edges in your thoughts. If you're still awake enough to hear this, thank you for spending part of your night here with me. You don't have to like or comment or do anything at all right now. There's no pressure to respond, no expectations, just you resting while the world keeps spinning. I hope you feel that same quiet satisfaction we always chase together here, that gentle mix of cozy stories and calm revenge that makes everything feel just a little more fair before you sleep. So, one last very soft goodnight from me to you. I wish you deep, peaceful sleep and the gentlest dreams. I'll let the Minecraft ambience take it from here.